Hey guys, and welcome to Should You Buy It, where all we do is talk a little bit about the game and whether or not we think it's worth the cost.
In this episode, we'll be playing Astroneer, the space survival crafting and exploration game where you can morph the terrain to your will in order to help you uncover the many secrets of Astroneer's universe.
Now, the first question that we always cover in these videos is what stage of development is the game in? And in this case, Astroneer is currently in full release and available on PC as well as most consoles for $30.
So what exactly is the game? Well, Astroneer is first and foremost an exploration game. The big selling point for a lot of players, however, is the terrain manipulation that you can do.
You see, unlike games such as Minecraft, you won't be just simply mining a node or a block in order to get your resources. Instead, you'll be digging your resources out from the ground with a tool that allows you to manipulate the terrain's formations. The dig function of this tool is the one you're going to be using for that, as it simply digs out the ground in a sphere-like shape until enough of that resource is exposed for you to gather it.
Now, the terrain can also be built and flattened. You'll often find in your travels that you may need to build upwards, in which case the tool will do just that and build upwards in a spherical or cylindrical shape. This is great for building a pillar in order to get out of a cave. However, it can also be used to flatten surfaces for things like building structures and, more importantly, air bridges which may be needed to get across large empty spaces.
In order to explore anything within Astroneer though, you are going to have oxygen. To get that oxygen, you will need to be tethered to some form of oxygen generator. At the beginning of the game, you will be given a starting facility that essentially can produce an infinite amount of oxygen. However, if you decide to wander off and gather resources or explore, you will quickly find yourself in trouble as the reach of your tether is rather short. You can of course extend this by making new tethers that essentially act as a chain back to your oxygen source so that you can stay alive at a further distance from your base. At the beginning, this is your primary way of being able to explore further areas, but you will soon notice that you'll be able to create vehicles like the tractor, which provides oxygen on the move without needing to be attached to the main tether system.
There are several different vehicles in Astroneer, and each provides you with better ways to explore the solar system. I don't want to spoil them all for you, so we'll just use the first two important vehicles that you come across as examples. The first one you'll have is a tractor that isn't much faster than a running player, but does give you that added bonus of oxygen on the go. It does require power though, so you will need to provide it with a power source. In this case, that is just simply electricity. The other form of vehicles I want to mention are the space exploration ones. These are essentially ships that you can take off the planet. They will require you to build thrusters to power them, but at the end of the day, it's important to note that space travel is more of a point-and-click adventure to get to another planet, where planetary travel is more about mobility and convenience.
In Astroneer, there are several different planets, and each one of them has different resources on them. For an example, one planet might have titanium while another has iron. These resources are important as you will eventually need all of them in order to craft the many different structures, vehicles, and items that you will either need or want in order to progress throughout the game.
The main progression, however, comes in two forms. The first form of progression is simply your research and unlocks. In order to unlock something, you will need to spend research points, also known as bytes, that you get from scanning materials, scanning large researchable items, finding small collectible items, and through unlocking special research pods. These are just the primary ways to get bytes, but the idea is that in order to progress, you will need to spend both your time and resources to get these points. These points, however, are not the only way in which you can progress in Astroneer.
The second way that you can progress is through the game's mission system. I say mission system instead of story as it feels more like a series of tasks that are given to you in order to help guide you throughout the game. For an example, these can be things like, hey, go collect 4 nuggets of composite, reach the center of the planet, or even tame a specific creature. Each time you complete one of these missions, you will be rewarded with either some new recipes, items, or research points. Again, this is more of a guide rather than an actual epic storyline that's going on.
Now, before we move into the pros and cons, we would like to mention one of our favorite places to buy games, which is Humble Bundle. Now, aside from the fact that you can purchase basically any game for PC and console all in one place, and the fact that becoming a Humble Bundle member will earn you tons of free games every month and give you great discounts on purchases, Humble Bundle also gives you the ability to donate to a great cause and help support this channel. If you are interested in getting some great deals on games while supporting charity, check out our link in the description below. With that being said, first up for the pros is that the game doesn't have a true UI. This is nice, as in most survival games these days, you have a UI that tends to clutter up a large portion of your screen with things like hotkeys and minimaps. This really helps emphasize the sense of cool visuals and exploration in the game, as you were able to feel more immersed and see more of the universe. Another pro is that Astroneer has a great sense of exploration, and we don't want to spoil anything here because it is a main aspect of the game, but there are some pretty neat and satisfying things to discover. After that is the unique and colorful art style that Astroneer offers. If you are tired of staring at plain old dirt and trees in your survival games, then Astroneer may be a great breath of fresh oxygen for you. And finally for the pros is that the game is just simply a relaxing and laid-back experience. There are some threats in the game, but for the most part, they didn't take away from the relaxing atmosphere that the game offers.
Now for the cons. The first con I have for you today is that Astroneer really doesn't have a whole lot of replayability value. And what I mean by this is that once you've gone to every planet and you've seen and discovered everything there is to see and discover, there's not going to be anything new the next time you play. Sure, you could maybe hike up the difficulty a tiny bit, but at the end of the day, it's not enough to really warrant another playthrough. I know there are players who love this game, but just don't want to play it a second time because there's nothing new for them to discover. And the last con I have for you today is that the game really just felt pretty repetitive after about the 6 or 7 hour mark. There's only so much difference that you really can have between all of these planets, and at the end of the day, most of them felt pretty similar when you went to a new one to go mine or do whatever you were going to do on that planet. The only real change was that there were some different plant monsters and some slightly different biomes that were a little intriguing to see, but nothing more than what you would expect from a game like No Man's Sky, where you go to a new planet and yeah, sure, there's some new looking vegetation, there's some new creatures or whatever, but it's not enough to warrant you actually going to these new planets because they don't feel like that new of an experience.
So now it's time for the rating for the game, and when we rate games, we want to get 1 hour of enjoyment out of every $1 that we spend on the game. So for this game in particular, in Astroneer, we want to get roughly 30 hours of enjoyment out of the $30 that we spent. And after putting well over 24 played hours into this game, we give it 8 out of 10 potatoes.
Astroneer was an adventure for us that was filled with wonder and curiosity. Every time you found something new, it generally felt exciting for the most part and interesting to experience, at least at the beginning. The best way I can describe this is that just like No Man's Sky, it is exciting to see things until you feel like you're just seeing a slight variation of the same thing that you've already seen before. The game overall, though, was easily one of the most relaxing experiences I've ever had in any survival game whatsoever. Therefore, as long as you understand that for most players, the game will be a one and done title rather than a play for hundreds of hours title, then we feel that it is safe to say that Astroneer is definitely worth the cost.
Before you guys go, thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy the video, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe for more survival game content. I just want to shout out Jonathan S. and Jim Phillips. Thank you guys so much for being members. We couldn't do this without you, and also a shout out to all of our new subscribers here on screen. Now don't forget to check out all of our links in the description below for things like our music library and Epic Games creator code, as these are just ways for you to help support the channel. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching again, and we'll see you next time.